Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's Pyromancer here, and I'm super excited for this video. You guys, we got some new, like, voidy, cryptic, whisper-like hints in the game on the PTR right now. Now, quick shout out to someone on here on Reddit named Wilder_people. This guy came on here, someone linked me this. Basically, he found this rare Ogmont the Steadfast in Silithus, and it has a chance to drop Visions of Ogmont the Steadfast, and this is a book. And this book actually has 10 pages with 10 separate passages written by this ogre, it seems. And we're going to read them, and some of them have very interesting messages in them. We're going to talk about that. So page number 1. I was a mere boy fighting at the war camp when the masters first blessed me with their visions. I have come to Silithus, to the site of the great gown. I assume that's supposed to say wound, seeking wonders beyond imagining. Make me your vessel, masters. So basically, I think what he's saying here, just as a mere boy, he was in a war camp. I think for ogres, that's not completely ridiculous to think about, especially with how long ogres have been around, when the masters first blessed him. So that's when he was first starting to see these kind of probably void or old god visions. Now he's come to Silithus. The size of the site of the great wound, obviously the sword being thrusted into the ground by Sargeras, seeking wonders beyond imagining. I would only assume he's talking about Cthulhu or something like that. Now, the second page. Last night I dreamt of 2 great armadas clashing upon an ocean of blood. Shadows writhing beneath them, rising. I smiled in my sleep. Why did the skittering insects have to stir me? Damn those bugs. No matter. We will finish what they began. So basically what happens, he's sleeping, he's dreaming about these armadas clashing. Now I have to assume, since we're going to Kul Tiras and Zandalar to bolster our navies, and armada generally is a large fleet of ships, that's going to be the Horde and the Alliance, I assume, battling each other on the seas, on an ocean of blood. Now I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe that's a figure of speech. Who knows? Shadows writhing beneath them, rising. I assume that's the Naga, probably. We heard on Kul Tiras that there's going to be some weird threats from the sea coming up, some ancient forces from the sea, so that's probably the Naga. And he's smiling in his sleep as he imagines this. So see, he is foreseeing the future through the void. Why did the skittering insects have to stir me? Damn those bugs. The insects around in Silithus, which we've actually seen the insectoid, the scarab tanks that you can ride around on, coming back into the game. And so I think that's just what he's talking about there. No matter, we'll finish what they began, talking about their original allegiance to Cthulhu. He is here with the cultists that we're about to learn about to finish what they started. Page 3, life returns to this dead place. First the bugs came. Now goblins skulk about. It is the blood they crave, I'm sure of it. He's talking about the Azurite blood coming out of the ground. Bah, let them have these drippings. Soon there will be enough seas to sate every thirst. So he's basically trying to say that, like, they're going to make like rivers and seas of blood, which is also something that Garrosh actually said that he saw in his vision, I believe. No, that's actually something that Magni talked about, rivers of blood, I believe. Anyway, so the crows, let's see here. Where am I? Oh yeah, page 4. Okay. Enough seas to sate every thirst. So anyway, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Page 4 here's where things get interesting. Okay. Today the smoke rose from my campfire and took form. A shepherd, cloaked in the shadows of her past, beloved by a flock of blind sheep. She guided them over a cliff. Even as they crashed upon the rocks, they never doubted her. The crows grew fat upon sheep flesh. Her laughter echoed all around. Now this is very cryptic, very interesting, and people are talking about, is it Sylvanas? Is it Illyria? Who is it? I would wager that they are talking about Queen Ashara in this instance. So a shepherd, cloaked in the shadows of her past, Queen Ashara, beloved by a flock of blind sheep. Ashara's followers, as we could see in the Well of Eternity scenario, were so blindly devoted to her that they would instantly sacrifice themselves in her name. She was beloved amongst her people. Chronicle describes it very well. And they were blind. They were just sheep who followed her. She guided them over a cliff. As the Well of Eternity was collapsing around her people, she was whispered to by the old gods and given an offer. If she would join them, they would give her immeasurable power. This is her guiding them over a cliff. So they dragged the Naga, not the Naga, they dragged Ashara and the other Highborn and all of them down into the bottom of the ocean and twisted them into these dark Naga. That's what this is. She guided them over a cliff, even as they crashed upon the rocks at the bottom of the ocean, I assume. They never doubted her. They still followed her blindly, as the Naga still do today. The crows grew fat upon sheep flesh. Her laughter echoed all around. So the crows growing fat upon sheep flesh. Sorry for popping my knuckles there. I think they're talking about the old gods literally feasting upon the flesh of the Naga. Because at the bottom of the ocean, even light must die. Nothing down there lives. So if the old gods, specifically N'Zoth, whose prison is allegedly under the ocean, if they were dragged down there so that he could feast upon them, Ashara is just mad with power. Her laughter is echoing all around. She's insane. As you can see with her new model, Queen Ashara is literally insane looking. I actually think I closed it. I can get it pulled back up here real quick. She looks nuts. Like, look at this. She's not even like a Naga anymore. She's twisted into like Ursula. Like I don't even know what to describe her as at this point. She looks insane. So I would definitely think that that is very fitting for her. Now we will come back to that picture in here in just a second. So the next one here. The blade's eye watches all. Why do you not see? The first of the lies have been offered. Bound by a throne? No. Boundless. The next will come soon. So basically, the blade's eye watches all. That kind of stumped me for a little bit, but then I was looking at Sargeras, specifically Sargeras' avatar from the tomb of Sargeras, which has an eye in the blade, the hilt rather. His eye is also missing, which I think is very interesting. However, his real form, the one that we see at the end of Antorus, does not seem to have that damage, so I find that curious. But then I figured, is there any other proof, or does just his avatar have it? Well, in some of the older art, the eye was in the weapon as well. One thing I noticed that's weird about his hand here is there seems to be something oozing from the hand, almost as if his hand is, now that I'm looking at it, almost as if his hand is kind of like becoming necrotic. That's very, very strange. I've never noticed that. So if this is something old god related, that's horrifying, and we're going to need to watch out. Now, additionally, there's one other strange detail that you can draw, and it is actually something I captured with my Gyazo. And if you guys don't know, a lot of the Warcraft universe is based off of H.P. Lovecraft novels. It's these really old mythos that were written with all these characters that share very strong similarities to our old gods and titans and all of those different types of things. And one of them is Azathoth, which is like the main one, the one that will enact final judgment upon all, also called the Demon Sultan. Now this eye, the shape of it with these things coming out of it, these barbs, looks strangely familiar to what we see for the symbol for Azathoth on the bestiary for H.P. Lovecraftian mythos. So that is very interesting. What exactly this implies, I'm not sure, because I feel like the cop-out of World of Warcraft would be for Azeroth to actually be Azathoth, because that's basically like the ultimate old god, basically the way that I understand it in the H.P. Lovecraftian universe. So for us, it'd be like a super old god, which is kind of the point since Azeroth has allegedly been corrupted for so long, but we don't actually know, so we can move forward. After that, the first of his lies has been offered. Well, Il'gynoth talks about some lies, right? The boy king serves at the master's table. 3 lies will he offer you. Now, we don't know what exactly Anduin has said to us up to this point. Many people are going with the boy king being Anduin. It could also technically be Rathian. There's generally a couple different options, but there's characters in the game that have physically called Anduin the boy king, so I'm thinking that it makes more sense for it to be him. However, he says this, bound by a throne? No. Boundless. Well, who do we know that's bound to a throne? Bolvar fucking Fordragon. Someone who is now the Lich King, allegedly, even though at the end of Arthas' defeat upon the top of Icecrown Citadel, he tells Tyrion to tell everyone that Bolvar Fordragon is dead and that the Lich King died with him, and told him to never come back, and he could never tell anyone of what happened atop the tower that day, which I find very strange. I know that the idea was that so people could live without fear, but that's really creepy. He was meant to control the Scourge and protect Azeroth from it. However, he's been, throughout the course of Legion, and Death Knights, you'll know all about this, you guys will love this shit. He's been resurrecting people like General Nazgrim, Mograine. He tried to resurrect Tyrion Fordring. He's been up to some really spooky, sketchy stuff, and he is technically, to our knowledge, bound to the throne. However, according to Ogmont, he may not be. But is he a boy king? Well, Il'gynoth in the Void generally tell half-truths. So we don't know what statement of the 3 lies and the boy king and all that may or may not be true. If we're assuming, given that the first of the 3 lies and 3 lies he will offer you are directly correlated, this must be truth. This part at least. But this doesn't say anything about the boy king. It just says the first of 3 lies has been offered to you. So it could technically be Bolvar. I'm interested to learn more about that. The next will come soon. So the next lie will be coming soon. Keep in mind, Alexstrasza, leader of the Red Dragon Flight, a dragon flight that Bolvar 4 Dragon is not really a big fan of. In fact, he wants them eradicated. And Alexstrasza did recently get added to the Nexus in Heroes of the Storm. Just saying. Might be someone we want to keep our eye on. Let's move forward. A band of cultists arrived. Do they comprehend my blessing, my greatness? They speak of Argus, of the one who was awakened, of the victory that went unnoticed. I shared my vision, but the skinny one just laughed. I do not like her. So a band of cultists, I assume Twilight's Hammer. They're already in the zone, so it makes sense. Do they comprehend my blessing, my greatness? Because he's supposed to be this magic vessel, basically. You know, their chosen vessel. And basically, past that point, he says, they speak of Argus. Obviously, the planet Argus, where we just came back from. One of the one who was awakened. I don't know if that's referring to the one who was awakened as Argus, or the product of Sargeras stabbing the planet awakened Cthulhu? Maybe? Something like that. It could be either or. Of the victory that went unnoticed. Now, that might kind of make you wonder, what do they mean by that? Of the victory that went unnoticed. Was it just because we didn't really understand the significance of defeating Argus as the Titan of Death? Are we blind and missing the entire point of what exactly he was? There's a possibility. Xalatath also says, we have long sought entrance into this realm. To think we have a mortal to thank. When you go into the seat of the Pantheon where you fight Argus. So I think there's definitely a correlation there. So someone in my Discord made a really good point. PRW Smith 12 over in my Discord, alongside Big Sess 32 in my Discord, and Locke in my Discord, made a really great point about the third death thing. Now, right now, we're kind of thinking that Illyria is the one who probably will undergo the third death, as she says she's felt like she's already died twice. Some people speculate that it's Azeroth, but from the Eyes of the Void, which is where we hear that whisper, that perspective from, Xalatath tells us that she's seen the Scouring, Sundering, and Shattering, all 3 deaths of Azeroth already. And so I don't think it's going to be Azeroth, but what if it was Queen Ashara? See, they came up with the idea that Queen Ashara basically, when she was dragged down under the sea by the old gods as the Well of Eternity was collapsing, she was drowned and she was killed. There's further evidence to support this with the whisper that from the old gods, at the bottom of the ocean, even light must die. And Queen Ashara was known by her people as the Light of Lights. Now, Locke, thank you for pointing that out. The great thing about the theory is that they can actually be re-drowned. Listen to this. In page 7, many days have passed without a vision. Have I displeased you, masters? I will leave you a sacrifice. Remember me. So he's not getting visions anymore for some reason. Something is weird. The star peers down. I must hide from its glare. Now, the star, I'm thinking it could be Elune. Now, Sherviu in my Discord made the great point that Elune might not be able to see down under the ocean to see what's going on down there. So he's hiding under the ocean from them. The dagger spoke true, Xalatath. It has been too long since I was drowned. So it's literally been too long. He needs to go back down and be drowned again by the old gods. It's almost as if they bestow upon him some power that allows him to blend in. Perhaps he's a Naga and is reborn in the image of an ogre after being drowned and killed by the old gods and then resurrected. Perhaps they're taking his soul out and putting it in a different vessel. He does, after all, in page 9, refer to himself as the chosen vessel. We'll get there. But it has been too long since he was drowned. I'd wager that he went back down. He gave them another sacrifice. The bones were picked clean, but he was still granted no insight. So I'll get on to that. But the idea here is that this guy actually may only be able to be in this form for a certain amount of time, and then he has to be drowned again. So the idea is this. Queen Ashara originally died. The first death was when she drowned, originally. Basically, we know, assuming from this guy, that you might only actually be able to retain that image for so long before you have to be drowned again. Perhaps Queen Ashara, that was done with again. But you could also consider, as she watched her empire crumble, it kind of killed her inside. It changed her, and that's what allowed the old gods to make that offer to her. Then when she was drowned, it was a second death. The whole idea behind it is this. At the hour of her third death, she will usher in our coming. If her second death was theoretically the end of the second raid tier in Battle for Azeroth, which they've said that's what the fight will be. Think about this. Even if she hasn't already died twice and she was just dragged down when they gave her the offer, and that's when she was initially drowned, we could defeat her again and technically kill her. But the old gods have immeasurable power, and even if we killed her, they could probably bring her back again. And you would think, with as important as Azshara is, they're probably not going to kill her off in the second raid tier of a new expansion. She is way too important for that to happen. So Big Sess made the point that it's more likely that she's actually going to end up being the final boss of the expansion in some way. And at that point, that would be the third death that ushers in the coming of N'Zoth. Either way, you have the opportunity for Azshara's third death to lead to the coming of the old gods. So thank you guys for pointing that out. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now. I love the speculation. And let's move on to the next pages. Page 9. The bones were picked clean. This is his sacrifice that he gave to them. Yet still, I am granted no insight. The others scoff. They question my devotion. He's talking about the other cultists. But I am the chosen vessel. I will not lose faith. And that makes sense as the vessel. He's basically a shell carrying something. He's there to do something on behalf of the old gods. At last I understand. A door. Oh, no, I missed it. Another sacrifice, yes. One more of them will not be missed. So I think he's just, again, talking about a Naga. It's just another Naga. Just give him another one. Whatever. They've been sacrificing them to him the whole time anyway. Roused by her screams, stirred by her whispers. A blessing from the masters. At last I understand. A door, a path. Ours, ours. Fool, the circle has awakened us all. So, aroused by her screams, stirred by her whispers. Well, I told you, Queen Azshara seems pretty freaking insane and pretty powerful by this point, okay? She is probably completely nuts from the whispers of the old gods by now. You know what I mean? If she's not, then I'm going to be very surprised. So for her to be screaming, you know, under the water, I could see. Stirred by her whispers, I think makes even more sense because her whispering would be indicative, of course, of a female. And I think that the whispering would be most closely related to and attributed to Queen Azshara, whispering, since she's so old goddy now. A blessing from the master, so they gave him something. At last I understand. They're showing him a door, a path, their path, our path, basically. Now, what is that path? The old gods really seem to have an interest in the Rift of Aln. So, who knows? In death, they might be able to journey through the Rift of Aln as a gateway. Maybe that has something to do with why Teldrassil gets burned down. Who knows? The last line. Fool, the circle has awakened us all. So Fool, I think here he's talking about either Sargeras or Illidan. Here's the reason that I say that. First of all, on the cosmology map, the design of everything, it's literally designed in circles. And so for the final circle of disorder to be complete, Sargeras stabbing his sword on the ground, thus completing the order between death and chaos that we see in the cosmology map, that is a very long circle. Il'gynoth talks about a circle. Your coming was foretold in the rings, the long circle nears completion, or is nearly complete, whatever he says. So the old gods definitely know about this circle. This circle of disorder that we see in the cosmology map is a possibility, but there are also other possibilities. When you give Tyrande Whisperwind Illidan's final message in the crystal to her, she says, she basically says thank you for it, whatever. She gives it, you know, she has contrite words, whatever. I wonder if he meant them or not. Bitch. Anyway, so when you're turning in the quest, it actually says you feel a sense of satisfaction as if a circle has been complete, which I think is just so weird. The circle has awakened us all. Now, someone in my Discord, Big Sess32, had a great idea, potentially, that the circle is the Cenarian circle. Maybe something in Teldrassil leads to the awakening of it. But I really am kind of thinking that's something to do with Illidan and Sargeras' storyline. That long circle, the climax of that story, that final circle's completion has finally awakened us all because of what Sargeras did with his sword. But we will have to see. That is about all the speculation I got for you guys. Going on nearly 20 minutes. Whew. Tinfoil hat off. And I think we'll be good. So I appreciate you guys so much. If you don't already, make sure you follow me on Twitter and on Twitch. I would certainly appreciate it. In fact, I have a giveaway going on right now for 2 60-day game cards for World of Warcraft, and they should be able to be used anywhere. So you can actually join that by following the link down in the description to Gleam. It's quick, easy. You sign up, you click a couple buttons, you subscribe to me on YouTube for 1 chance to win, and then you can follow me on Twitter and Twitch, each for an additional 1 chance. So yeah, I'd love to give that away to you. Make sure you go and check that out. I'd certainly appreciate it. Leave a comment in the comment section down below. I always, of course, as usual, want to know what you guys have to think and say about this situation, because more eyes on the situation is better. But with that, I will leave you. Thank you very much. Check me out on Patreon if you haven't and you'd like to support me and my full-time job now here on YouTube. Thanks so much, and until next time, stay awesome, you guys. I'll see you. Peace.